Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can, but maybe not for long. There are a lot of indications that Tom Holland's Peter Parker is struggling with his life as a superhero and may hang up his spider suit at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. Just as this film will see Peter Parker leave his friendly neighborhood, so too will he leave his Spider-Man persona behind. This video will analyze the trailers for Spider-Man Far From Home, examine Peter Parker's character development over the course of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and highlight themes and struggles at the core of Spider-Man as a character. After this deep dive, it will be clear that Peter Parker is gearing up to leave his life as a crime fighter behind him. Get ready, cause we're swinging right into this Spider-Man theory. It's pretty clear from the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer that Peter Parker is struggling a bit with his secret identity. Although, at this point, about as many major characters in the MCU know about his secret identity than don't. He's hesitant to take the suit with him on his class trip to Europe, and instead just wants to enjoy his vacation. At the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, he chose not to join the Avengers and instead use his superpowers to improve his community. That's why we see Peter using his Spider-Man identity to help Aunt May's charity. He's indirectly helping those around him by using Spider-Man as a symbol for positive change. Peter hesitates to take his spider suit with him on his trip abroad because he never wanted Spider-Man to be an international figure who fixes problems around the world. He also doesn't want his life as Peter Parker and his life as Spider-Man to blur together even more than they already have. Spider-Man Far From Home is all but guaranteed to be about Peter Parker grappling with his alter ego and trying to figure out what it means to be Spider-Man. This questioning of his identities will likely come about as he finds himself terrifically out of his depth when battling the elementals. This villainous organization consists of 4 extra-dimensional beings consisting of Hellfire, Hydron, Magnum, and Zephyr. They each command fire, water, earth, and wind respectively, and ruled over a massive kingdom on Earth before an Egyptian wizard banished them to another plane of existence. In Spider-Man Far From Home, they've somehow returned to Earth, and they seem to be hell-bent on destroying the civilizations that replaced their own. So yeah, they're a bit of a step up from a high-tech Birdman and his alien weapon-selling Goonies. The Birdman who was also Batman, not the one who's a lawyer. Man, there are way too many superheroes and villains with an avian theme. Oof. Peter Parker will have to take on threats way outside his usual depth in Spider-Man Far From Home and fight to protect communities he is not a part of. He will have to face the fact that a part of being a hero is protecting things and people that he isn't personally connected to. However, this isn't what he wanted to do as Spider-Man. At the end of Homecoming, we saw him commit to being a force for good on a smaller level and decide not to take on the additional fame and responsibility of being an Avenger. In this sequel, Peter Parker is poised to learn that the responsibility of being a hero is more than he bargained for, and that he can't really choose when he's going to be Spider-Man or on what level he's going to operate. This may prove to be too much for the young hero, and he may choose to abandon his heroic alter ego altogether at the end of the film. It's clear already that Peter Parker is questioning his life as a superhero based on the events of Avengers Infinity War. Following a trip to space to stop Thanos that ends unsuccessfully, Peter becomes a part of the half of the universe erased by Thanos' genocidal snap. As he slowly crumbles to dust in Tony Stark's arms, he's horrified with what's happening. He barely has enough time to wrap his head around his impending demise before he's gone, and spends his final moments apologizing to his mentor for his own death. Then he's gone, and doesn't even know if there's a chance for him to come back. That's enough to make anyone question their life choices. Spider-Man Homecoming was largely about Peter Parker learning how to be a superhero, confronting his insecurities about the role, and figuring out what kind of hero he wanted to be. In Avengers Infinity War, he learned firsthand about how high the stakes are in the world of superhumans. His failure to stop Thanos resulted not only in his own death, but in the death of countless people. After such a crushing defeat, no one could really blame him for wanting to take a break from being Spider-Man. It's soul-crushing to put forth your best efforts and still fail. When Peter Parker crumbled away at the end of Infinity War, his confidence crumbled as well. If being a hero means fighting increasingly powerful foes well above his abilities, Peter may realize that he's better off exploring his other talents trying to make the world a better place without his powers. His decision to retire as Spider-Man will only become easier if his work as a superhero continues to chip away at his life as Peter Parker. Taking his suit with him to Europe means that he has to be prepared to be Spider-Man all the time. He doesn't get to take a break, form new friendships, and explore romantic relationships like a regular teenager anymore. Problems for Spider-Man to solve invading Peter's personal life is sure to be a theme in this upcoming movie. Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury literally tranquilizes Peter's best friend so that he can talk to him about looming threats. While it's played for laughs in the trailer, and probably will be in the full movie as well, this moment actually carries a lot of weight symbolically. Peter Parker's daily life is being invaded by problems that Spider-Man has to solve, and they don't even really affect his daily life. His evening is interrupted, his vacation is now essentially a work trip, and he can't get the break he wanted. His one opportunity to be Peter Parker for a while is taken away from him, and he has to once again go fulfill his Spider-Man responsibilities. This would be demoralizing to anyone, and it wouldn't be much of a surprise to see Peter exhausted with his dual identity by the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. He'll have to choose between these identities before the end of the film, and unlike a lot of other heroes in the MCU, he doesn't have the means to be a hero all the time. Tony Stark can afford to be Iron Man because he's a billionaire genius with a state-of-the-art lab at his disposal. Peter doesn't have these affordances though, and any time he spends as Spider-Man is at the expense of his everyday life. This is especially painful to Peter because he actually has a great chance of having a terrific career in a STEM-related field, if only he had the time to give his classes and extracurriculars the attention they deserve. This struggle between his daily life and his life of Spider-Man is at the core of Peter Parker as a character. He questions and stops being a hero in most stories featuring him because it's an intrinsic part of who he is. Every other major version of the character gives up or regrets being Spider-Man, and the MCU version of Peter Parker will tackle this issue in the next film as well. Being Spider-Man isn't as awesome as it seems, and some of the best stories centering on the character highlight that fact and feature Peter Parker leaving the role. In the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker stops being a hero twice in the trilogy. The first instance is in the second film, where his time spent on crime fighting is putting a significant strain on his relationships, finances, and school life. Eventually, he finds the value in his saving people as Spider-Man and accepts the hardships that come with it, regaining his powers in the process. This Peter also stops being a hero in the final movie in this trilogy. As he finds himself unable to live up to the expectations and those of others, he fuses with an alien symbiote that enhances his abilities, but also encourages him to be more violent and aggressive. By the end of the film, though, he realizes the harm he's causing because of the symbiote and chooses to instead rely on his own abilities. Another look at how being Spider-Man is harmful to Peter Parker comes from the recent animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Here, Peter B. Parker is pulled into an alternate reality where he has to help Miles Morales become his own version of Spider-Man. Life isn't great for Peter B. Parker, though. He's out of shape, broke, and alone after the passing of his Aunt May and painful divorce from Mary Jane Watson. He's struggling to keep his life together and is way more comfortable being Spider-Man than he is being Peter Parker. While at face value, this is a version of Spider-Man that's going through a kind of midlife crisis, the film drops subtle hints that this is Peter Parker from Universe 616, which is the main universe in Marvel Comics. That means that this depressed and barely functioning Peter Parker is supposed to be the main Spider-Man that most audiences are familiar with. Peter B. Parker's troubled personal life isn't an exception, it's the rule for Spider-Man. One of the most interesting examinations of Peter Parker as a character and how his identity as Spider-Man negatively impacts his life comes from the Superior Spider-Man run of comics. In this storyline, Otto Octavius switches bodies with Peter Parker and becomes the new Spider-Man. He decides that he's going to be a superior version of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man after realizing fairly quickly that his new life is much less glamorous than he thought it would be. However, even with his best efforts and less rigid moral code, Octavius isn't able to fix all of Spider-Man's problems. The crime-fighting robots he builds so that he can have time to finish Peter Parker's college degree end up being hijacked by the Green Goblin, and he has trouble maintaining Peter's relationships with Mary Jane and Aunt May. Even when approached from a totally new perspective, the problems Peter Parker faces thanks to his dual identity as Spider-Man can't be fixed. Octavius may not walk away from the Spider-Man persona when he takes on Peter Parker's identity, but he realizes pretty quickly how much his new life sucks and that he isn't able to improve it much. The Superior Spider-Man comics really dig into how much pain it is to be Spider-Man and how much Peter has to sacrifice to be a superhero. The MCU Spider-Man movies have yet to really confront that element of the character and is sure to bring it up in Spider-Man Far From Home. By the end of the movie, it wouldn't be surprising at all if Peter decides that he can't keep sacrificing his own life for his Spider-Man responsibilities. As time goes on and we see more trailers hinting at the events of Spider-Man Far From Home, there's bound to be more hints at Peter retiring at the end of the film. The movie would just not be faithful to who Peter Parker is as a character if he didn't start struggling with his secret life as a hero. Granted, he's sure to become a hero again, but probably not until the third film in the series, or if another Avengers calls for his help like in Captain America: Civil War. The MCU's Peter Parker needs and deserves a break from being Spider-Man. As the life of a hero takes its toll on him, he'll need some time off to recover and think about why he needs to be Spider-Man. Right now, it's only a sense of guilt that makes him perform heroic duties. He would feel bad if he didn't use the powers gifted to him to save people and fight villainy. If he can't gain some sense of fulfillment or more substantial relationship from the role in the next film, he's almost certain to give it up. Even if he will inevitably pick up the mantle again in another movie, it will only be after Peter takes a significant amount of time to think about why he's okay with his superhero life messing up his ordinary life. As it stands, there are a lot of indications that the MCU's Peter Parker will quit being a hero by the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. The trailer features him questioning how he wants Spider-Man to fit into his life and what kind of impact on the world he wants to make with his superpowers. It's also rather obvious that Peter is unsure of his life as a hero after dying in Avengers Infinity War, and this feeling of being out of his depths is sure to only grow as he fights the elementals. Most importantly, though, is how integral the strain of being Spider-Man is to Peter as a character. Just about every interpretation of the character features him questioning why he's Spider-Man and figuring out why he's okay with the hardships that come with the role. The MCU's Peter Parker hasn't really done that yet, and it seems like Far From Home is going to bring up a lot of those questions and have him find his answers in the third film. Although it will be sad to see Peter Parker walk away from his life as a hero, it will be fascinating to see how he gets there, and Spider-Man Far From Home is sure to be as amazing as Spider-Man himself. What do you think, though? Does Peter Parker have a different fate in store for him at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Behind the Screen. We have plenty of videos of the best movies, shows, and characters coming soon, and they're all spectacular. If you hit the bell, you'll get a notification every time a new video goes live. It's kind of like a spider sense, except for awesome videos instead of imminent danger. Thanks so much for watching, and check back soon for even more amazing character breakdowns and film theories.